Outlaw Law is brought to you by Whitaker and Hamer, attorneys and counselors at law. Your law firm for life.
Welcome back into the Outlaw Lawyer. Josh Whitaker and Joe Hamer, your hosts. You can find them during the week. Whitaker and Hamer Law Firm. They're the managing partners there. They're practicing attorneys here in North Carolina. They've got offices in Raleigh, Garner, Clayton, Goldsboro, Fuquay-Varina, and Gastonia. And we are here to talk legalese. I'm Morgan Patrick, consumer advocate. If you've got an issue that you're facing and you need some advice, you need to get some questions answered, the phone number is 800-659-1186. That's 800-659-1186. Just leave your contact information, briefly what the call's about, and an attorney with Whitaker and Hamer will return that call. You can also email your questions to the program, questions@theoutlawlawyer.com. Josh, where are we going next?
Well, Morgan, the first story I wanted to tackle today and kind of put an attorney perspective on was one I saw kind of make the rounds on local media. I guess this would have been last week, but there is a court case. So we got a court case here in North Carolina, Wake County actually, where a homeowners association is suing a homeowner for, I guess the word would be an unauthorized doggy snack station. So this homeowner on what he would argue on his property, I think that's part of the argument we'll get to, but he erected a little station there that has some doggy treats. He keeps a water bowl there, and I think there must be a camera because he can see people coming back and forth. But he put this on his property 4 or 5 years ago. The HOA has taken an issue with it for probably a lot of reasons and sued him. I guess there's been some back and forth. The HOAs usually don't sue you right away. They usually send you a lot of letters and threaten to fine you daily until it's remedied. And so nothing's happened. So here we are. There's a lawsuit, Wake County court. And I saw a lot of people reporting on it. A lot of people, I think, the way they reported on it, they kind of felt, you know, a lot of times I don't know, Joe, if you see this a lot or if it's just me reading into things, but, you know, a lot of times, depending on what outlet you're watching or reading, you know, the media outlet has a predisposition to one party or the other when they talk about this kind of stuff. So I kind of felt like everybody was feeling sorry for the guy who set up this doggy snack station who was getting sued. But it got a lot of attention, this thing.
Yeah, you do a lot more reading and watching of the news than I do. I'm more of a simpleton, Josh, and I like my mindless social media as opposed to actual news and happenings. But yeah, I see what you're saying. When I do keep up with it, I agree. You usually do see some kind of taking a side, and a lot of folks. It's hard to be on the side that doesn't want sweet, cute, fluffy dogs to have delicious treats.
Team HOA.
It's difficult to be team HOA. Yeah, who's team HOA, man? Like, there are definitely people. That's a thing. You know, we do a lot of real property law here, and we deal with HOAs frequently, and it's just something that you know, being heavily involved in an HOA. I know we don't take stances and we don't take positions here, but I'm comfortable saying that's not for me. Being heavily involved in an HOA, I was not built for it, and that's not my thing.
You got to have rules. We live in a society of laws, Joseph. You have to have rules.
I don't disagree with that. I'm not saying like they have no function. I'm not saying they have no purpose. They absolutely do. I'm just saying that I'm not the guy that's going to be on the board of directors. I'm not going to be the president of the HOA. I'm not going to be the guy. Like, I'm trying to think of what my neighbor would do, and I'm lucky enough to live around family, thank goodness. And a lot of people probably wouldn't think that's a great thing, but like we all get along. But like if I'm in a neighborhood, like a traditional neighborhood, and I got folks I don't know on both sides of me or that aren't related to me, like I'm trying to think of what they would have to do that would rise to the level of me being like, well, I'm reporting them to my HOA, and it would have to be drastic.
You know what this made me think of? You were talking about how you don't, maybe I read the news more than you, but it made me think of this a couple of weeks back. You know, my phone, a couple of weeks back, my phone went haywire and I had to order a new one. So I had to go 2 days without a phone, which is crazy. I had backup phones. Usually I can switch, but they weren't working. So I just did not have a phone for like a day and a half. It was terrible. But it reminds me that day, Joe, I met you out for lunch and I didn't have my phone on me, right? So I had to call you from the office and say, look, I'm leaving now to go to this place to meet you for lunch. So I'll be there. I don't know if you remember this, Joe.
I remember that. I've thought about that moment
And so,
so many times.
so I went there and I sat down, and you were running late. You were on a conference call. I knew you might be late. It wasn't a big deal. But let's say we were supposed to meet at 12 and it was like 12:15. I was like, well, did I tell him exactly where I'd be? Is he already in here? And I just didn't.
You start running through the scenario.
Yeah. I was like, man, I wish I could just text him, like I know he's going to be late. And then I didn't have anything to do. Like back in the day, like let's say in college, I had a flip phone, right? And we didn't have fancy cell phones back then. And so I'd always bring in like the newspaper, the News and Observer, or like the Wall Street Journal. I'd bring something with me when you went to 8, so you had something to do while you were waiting for your food. And I didn't have any of that. So I just sat there and read the menu like a crazy person for like 15 minutes because there was nothing else to do while I wondered if you would come to eat lunch with me or not, And it was crazy to think there was a time where you could just text somebody, like, hey. But anyway, it was a lot of anxiety at that lunch.
That's what I was going to ask. Is what you did. You just read the menu. Did you just look at people? You end up looking at people. Like
there was
glancing around at people.
This was in this particular situation. There was a bar that had a TV, and so I moved my seat so I could see the TV because I was going nuts.
Rotten, man. Yeah, that's.
But anyway,
that's an interesting thought. I don't know how we got there off of the doggy treat conversation, but it is an interesting thought.
Is it really, Joseph? I just spit that out. But so the HOA issue, just so people know, the legal issue here. There's a couple of legal issues, but when you buy your lot in a subdivision that has an HOA, I think a lot of people are under the impression, hey, I own this quarter of an acre, it's all mine, and that's not always the case. You have sewer easements, right? So the back 10 feet of your lot, there may be a sewer easement for drainage or a drainage easement, and you're not supposed to put any permanent structures in there. There's only certain things you can do there. This guy's property, it sounds like, and again, I don't have the complaint in front of me, but it sounds like at least the HOA's argument is this snack station wasn't erected on his property. It's erected on a piece of property that's actually a city of Raleigh right of way, and the HOA has taken the opinion that it's their job according to their covenants. Covenants are the documents that are recorded when a subdivision gets started, just letting everybody know what the restrictions are, what the big how big your house can be, how small can it be, can you have chickens, all that kind of stuff gets addressed in the covenants, and they get recorded down at the Register of Deeds. And they're saying part of the covenants there is that they're supposed to keep the city of Raleigh right away clear, and there's not supposed to be anything happening there. And there's probably some liability issues too. Who's responsible if someone gets hurt on something that's not on this guy's property? So I'm sure the HOA, that's kind of what they have in mind. There's some legal issues there, some liability they're worried about, but they definitely got, I think, in local media, got pegged as the bad guys when this got reported.
Yeah, and this is looking at the way this whole thing has gone and looking at both sides' arguments. It's a fairly, maybe not interesting to everyone, but interesting to us, I think, as attorneys, what the arguments of each side really are. And you've got it's kind of unique because it's not necessarily that it doesn't appear that the neighborhood's even saying that this individual just cannot have the pet snack station at all. They're just basically saying they want it to be on his property. They don't want it to be on this, what they consider to be community, HOA community owned property. So a lot of times when you see this type of thing, you just see the HOA outright saying, hey, you can't do this, period. This is an activity that can't take place upon any portion of any property, even the property you own. But this is a little bit of a different situation here.
And HOAs are a lot like anything else. There's some built-in power and authority there, and if the wrong person gets in there, it's always it can go south. I'm not saying that's the case here. We represent a lot of HOAs here at the firm, and we represent a lot of people with valid complaints against their HOA, and if the sides can't agree, you end up litigating, looking for injunctions, things like that. So it's part of the process, and when something like this gets litigated, there's a lot of money involved, right? So someone, I imagine attorneys aren't working for free on this. And so that's what I always think when I see something like this. I was like, man, I wonder how much this is, costing everybody. Because there's always, we have people, we consult with people all the time, and some people won't, we get that consult where someone wants to prove a point, I just want to make sure they know they were wrong, or I'm right here. And how much is that worth to you, right? How much is being right worth to you? So we've had that conversation a time or two with folks, but anyway, I thought it was interesting. Almost the subject matter I think is interesting because you don't see it a lot, but also the way it's being covered. So this one, it just got started, so it'll be interesting to see how it pans out over the next couple of weeks.
H.O.A. Doggy Snacks Station controversy, Bedford Falls in North Raleigh. We'll see how it goes. It'll probably be making another appearance on the Outlaw Lawyers. Josh Whitaker and Joe Hamer are your hosts. They are the managing partners at Whitaker and Hamer Law Firm. They're also practicing attorneys here in North Carolina. They have offices in Raleigh, Garner, Clayton, Goldsboro, Fuquay-Varina, and Gastonia. And if you've got a legal situation that you're facing and you want answers, I've got a phone number for you. Get in touch with Whitaker and Hamer, 800-659-1186. That's 800-659-1186. Leave your contact information, briefly what the call's about, and an attorney with Whitaker and Hamer will reach out to you. You can also send your questions to the program. That's questions@theoutlawlawyer.com. Again, questions@theoutlawlawyer.com. We'll answer those on a future program. And check out the website, theoutlawlawyer.com. We're back right after this.